just the fact that you're not broken, no matter who you are, I think is so important to realize, because we all have this negative self-talk. We all have these things that we don't like about ourselves, and we don't treat ourselves well. She's always been into dogs. And the thing about her being neurodivergent is she has very restricted interests, right? Which I tell her, the fact that you can have a restricted interest, like dogs or like Harry Potter movies or something like that, I'm like, that is a superpower. And she told me recently how she was afraid of me for a while because I'd always get so angry. And that just cut me so deeply. And even like now, it feels like a dagger in the heart. And I was doing the best I can with what I had, but I still should have been, I still regret not being there. It's like, they talk about airplanes, put on your own mask before you help the other person. And I wasn't putting on my own mask.
Evan, every dad has that story they just love to tell when they talk about their kids. What is your favorite story?
My favorite dad story is also what I'm most ashamed about. It's the story of not knowing my daughter was neurodiverse until she got into college. And so there were many, many years where I didn't understand why she was a picky eater, why she couldn't transition, why she had to wear baggy clothes. And the list goes on, but it was just like a lot of things that I didn't realize. And what I'm ashamed to say is that I didn't know how to handle it. And I wasn't my best self at that point either. Not to make excuses, but I was not at my best self. And she told me recently how she was afraid of me for a while because I'd always get so angry. And that just cut me so deeply. And even like now, it feels like a dagger in the heart. And I was doing the best I can with what I had, but I still should have been, I still regret not being there. The good news is that she was able to tell me about it. And that I feel is success because we've talked through it. We've talked about it. I, as a father, grew up with a father who was a narcissist, who wasn't there physically and emotionally for me. And I wanted to be there for my children. I wanted to be able to be there when they hurt, when they fell down, when they, had people break up with them, things like that. I wanted to be that emotional support that I did not have, and to be physically present as well. And just to know that I wasn't hurts me very deeply. And I just, obviously I can't go back in time, but I'm really glad that I have the kind of relationship now with my daughter where we can talk about this stuff. And I can apologize to her, even though I can't change the past.
Man, no, Dad. I can feel the pain. Just even like that would just break me if my daughter said something like that to me. But it's amazing that you are moving forward, right? You've got, everybody thinks that you screw up their childhood. It's like, oh, it's over. Well, you got a lot of years left. They're different years. Evan, I'm excited about the conversation. I have several dads in my life of neurodivergent children, and it adds just another depth to having to be a dad. So we're gonna have this incredible conversation, and I'm totally looking forward to it. Gents, I sleep on a MyPillow. I sleep on MyPillow Giza sheets and MyPillow body pillows. I have MyPillow towels. My wife wears MyPillow slippers. We have MyPillow merchandise throughout our entire house because it is such great quality products that I love every single one of them. And I would never recommend a company to you that I don't use. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and MyPillow as sponsors for this show. You can go to mypillow.com and use code TFM, super complicated. That's our parent company, The Fallible Man. Code TFM for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 for our listeners. You get to support a great American company that is employee owned, and you get to help us keep making shows just like this one that you're listening to right now, as well as you get great products that you can trust and that are amazing in your home. So go to mypillow.com, use code TFM to get discounts on over 200 products. Guys, it's a win-win-win for all of us. Let's get back to the show. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast, the unfiltered truth about being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered, candid conversations on fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Dallin, and today my guest is Evan Sanchez. Evan, welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Evan, I love that you could open up in the first part of the show, and this is going to be a really great conversation. But as you know, being a Dad Hat listener, that you have a hat and you got to tell the story. You got to explain why you chose this hat of all hats to wear today.
So this hat, it's partially to cover up the baldness, but but this was my grandfather's hat. And I'll humble brag on him a little bit because he grew up the son of a butcher and into depression, no money. He worked his way up the corporate ladder, became a CEO of a company, of a book publishing company in the 80s. Then then they made him retire because he was 65. And he went back to law school. It took him 3 times to pass the bar, and he practiced till he was 97.
Nice.
And I wear this hat because not only was it his hat, but after my grandmother died, he'd always wanted a dog, and my grandmother was against it. So he got this golden retriever named Harvey, 120 pounds, big dog. And he loved having that dog around. And when he passed, we got to inherit Harvey. And Harvey was just the mayor of the neighborhood. So, and he passed about a couple of years ago, but he was just a great dog. And golden retrievers, I just love their energy. They just have chill energy. And he was such a good dog. But so I wear this not only in remembrance of my grandfather, but also in remembrance of Harvey.
All right. You got to describe the hat a little bit for our listeners who aren't catching this on one of the YouTube or something. For our audio listeners, what's on the hat?
It's a picture of a dog. So
now that all makes sense.
Yep. It's a picture of a golden retriever. It's kind of it's embroidery.
If you guys are listening, that makes more sense now, right?
Yes, it does. I should have described it in advance.
No, that's fine. One of the joys of podcasting is remembering always that it's an audio first, and that's where all my listeners are anyways. Everybody listens to the show.
Right.
Very few people watch it and see my beautiful red hat. I feel under,
which is a shame,
right? I feel under,
because it is beautiful.
But I got to keep that in mind when I talk about things. So Evan, you said you have a daughter. Is it just the one child, or?
I have a daughter. She's in her junior year of college, and I have a son who's in his freshman year. What's interesting about my son is that I'm 5'10". He's 6'5". And so I walk around with him, and I feel like I have a bodyguard around me at all times. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's just, and yeah. So I think it came from my wife's side. She's 5'10", but she has, relatives who are taller. So somehow he got up 6'5", and he's does rowing. So he's really enjoying that. But what's interesting about him is that it took him a long time to find his sport or to find his passion. Because like his dad, he tried trumpet, he tried saxophone. He can sing. Saxophone represent.
Saxophone represent.
Nice. So he tried singing, which I can't do at all. And then he tried badminton, he tried soccer, baseball, football, all these sports. And once he found rowing, he was just like, that's what I got to do. And so that's what I love about him is like, he's really like very, very intentional. He would do things like he would do Rubik's Cubes competition, which I don't know if you've ever seen those, but they're absolutely insane.
In awe when I watched those.
Yeah, he's like, Dad, it's just an algorithm. I'm like, yeah, Xander, I couldn't solve it in the 80s. I can't solve it now. But he would go to Rubik's Cube competition and be timed and be able to solve one in 30, 45 seconds or stuff like that. And they have like all different sizes, like 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, 5x5 pyramids, and even blind, which is just crazy to me. So I just love like when he goes into something, he's like going in hard. And he's at college for biochem and marine science, and he loves marine science. So that's his passion right now.
Are the kids at the same school or are they at different schools?
No, different schools. So, but my daughter has been into dogs for a long time. We actually have 3 dogs, more than and we accidentally got 3 dogs. And you're like, Evan, how do you accidentally get 3 dogs? Well, you had one that you got from the rescue. My stepmom died. We got hers, right? And then we found a Pomsky, a Pomeranian Husky on the soccer field. So now I have 2 kids in college, 3 dogs.
That's just wrong.
I know.
It's a wrong crossbreed. So wrong.
Yeah. So it's not what I pictured in my empty nest years, but I can't complain. I'm proud of both of them. And my daughter's
mind how you ended up with 3 dogs. Like that doesn't even surprise me.
Yeah.
People are like, yeah, and I ended up with this one, and
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
it's a very slippery slope. So, but she's always been into dogs, and the thing about her being neurodivergent is she has very restricted interests, right? Which I tell her, the fact that you can have a restricted interest, like dogs or like Harry Potter movies or something like that, I'm like, that is a superpower. That is a superpower to be able to go into depth into something like that. And when she found out her diagnosis, she was just so relieved. She was just like so happy because now she understood how her brain works.
Means you're not crazy. It's really, really rough to go through years being different and just having people look at you like there's something wrong with you. And then because you start to question, it's like, oh, well, maybe there is something wrong with me. It's a huge relief a lot of times for people who are diagnosed later in life. Like, no, you aren't crazy. You're not broken. You're
right. And that's really, I like what you said there. You're not broken, because I think that as dads, as men, and we talked about this a little before, but just like, there's a standard of like, you always have to, be strong. You always have to like sports. I didn't like sports. I still don't like sports. I'm in the minority, right? I'm not good at sports. I don't like sports. I work out a lot, but there's that. But in my childhood, I felt like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't good at sports and I didn't enjoy them.
This is actually we're treading into a subject that is near and dear to my heart. My oldest niece, I think she was before she was officially diagnosed, and they had to go to a children's hospital. They had been going to doctors for years before they figured out where she fell on the spectrum, and that she was on the spectrum, and what it actually meant for her to understand that diagnosis. And I think my best friend, one of my very best friends, one of our first guests on this show, actually, he is autistic.
Mm-hmm.
His wife is on a different spot on the spectrum, and 3 of his 4 children are on the spectrum, and they're all in different places on the spectrum of neurodivergent.
Right.
And so their house is it's an exciting place to hang out.
How so?
When you've got 5 people in living in one enclosed space that are all neurodivergent, but all neurodivergent in different ways,
mm-hmm.
It makes everyday tasks 1,000 times harder, because now you're dealing with the overneed or focus or inability to do certain, right? It's all this mix.
Right.
So the house is chaos. Life is chaos. There's 1,000 things going on all the time. And with each child, 2 of them are best friends with my 2 daughters. And so my children understand their friends well and accept, right? Like when one of them can, if she's having a rough day that day, can be pretty nasty. And my youngest is like, she's having a bad day. It's okay. Right. She just brushes it off like a duck with water,
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful that they're able to see that and acknowledge it and not let it be a "you are broken" thing.
My kids are very empathetic. So it took a lot of, there were some conversations early on as we got to know them, both like her mom explaining it to her, and then me and my wife talking with our children, and it's like, oh, well, okay, this means this and this means, so we were blessed with the fact that because one of my nieces is and has very specific needs because of it, and very specific, some people would call them peculiarities because of it, what she can and cannot do, how she functions. It prepped them well for interacting with other kids and going, oh, maybe, right? They give them the benefit of the doubt that there might be something else happening. So
yeah,
we were prepped for it.
Yeah, that's good. But I think it's important to realize that, not everybody is the same and everybody has their own issues going on.
Oh, yeah.
And even, I haven't been diagnosed as neurodivergent. I imagine I'm normal. I don't know, but just the fact that you're not broken, no matter who you are,
mm-hmm.
I think is so important to realize, because we all have this negative self-talk. We all have these things that we don't like about ourselves, and we don't treat ourselves well.
They didn't. You mentioned you were Gen X. I'm the very end of Gen X, and I was in 6th grade the first time we ever even heard of ADHD or ADD.
Oh yeah,
that was the first time anybody had ever talked about it. No one knew what it was. Like, it was a big deal, and that was back when I was in 6th grade. Anybody who was coming up before that, they're like, shut up and pay attention. Like, you just got yelled at a lot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
learn to fidget with your hands. You know, I'm sitting over here playing with putty while we record this because I have to do something with my hands for my brain to function.
Right.
I've never been diagnosed with anything, and I don't care. I learned to live my life. I'm not going to go ask them now. Probably. But, you know, they just, we that wasn't a thing for us. They were just like, suck it up, do better, pay attention.
Right. It wasn't, there wasn't any understanding of the fact that these people learn differently.
Right.
And that they do things differently. I mean, the guy I sat with in band in high school, was always wiggling, like legs moving. He would talk and he'd have like 5 sentences try to come out of his mouth at the same time. And very smart. He's a lawyer now. So, I mean, he made it work for himself, but it was just like we just made fun of him because we didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot we don't understand about the mind, right? We did the same thing with PTSD.
Right.
PTSD didn't come into existence back in 1990 during Desert Storm, right? We had a lot of veterans coming home for a long time, and we called it all kinds of things, and frequently we called it just gold bricking or something stupid because we didn't understand it or didn't want to acknowledge it. And it got labeled a lot of things over the years. We called it combat fatigue. We called it shell shock, right?
Right.
We now know it's PTSD. And Desert Storm didn't create that. It's always been there. We just didn't, right? The 90s didn't create neurodivergency. It's always been there.
Exactly.
We just didn't understand it.
Exactly. We did not understand it. And we didn't, and I've had, people who served in the military, and they said, listen, I had more friends die stateside than I did in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And because of PTSD, because of, also transitioning from military to civilian life is also very hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think we all just need to give ourselves more grace and more understanding. And I'm pointing the finger at everybody, but I'm pointing 4 back at me, right? Because I just feel like we live in a world where we judge ourselves, we judge others, and we compare so easily, right? We're in this comparison game. And so I was going to have a bumper sticker made up. I actually did a post about it on LinkedIn, but it was, less comparison and less judgment equals a happier life. Because if we can be less judgmental with ourselves, less judgmental with other people, if we can stop comparing ourselves to, people with nicer cars or nicer homes or whatever it is,
mm-hmm.
This person has that, I don't have this, that sort of thing, which is very easy to do in American culture. I just think that, and you've probably heard the phrase, comparison is the theft of joy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I think that's what we need to, that's what I'm trying to learn, is trying to be less judgmental with myself and less judgmental with other, and also not comparing. And it's much easier said than done.
Isn't that the tagline for Instagram as a company? Comparison is the thief of joy. That's basically
right.
The platform, right?
Yes, exactly.
These A-frames and hate yourself because you're not as good as they are.
Right. I don't have 6-pack abs. I don't think I ever did, but I definitely don't now.
Statistically, you're more likely to become a millionaire than you are to have 6-pack abs.
I believe that.
Legitimately. That is the actual statistics. Is more likely there are more millionaires.
I believe that 100%. But you look at all these people on Instagram and you think like that, I have to be like that.
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of airbrush filters.
Right. Yes.
I used to follow a bodybuilder, pro bodybuilder. The guy's a coach. He's competed for years, has a multi-million-dollar corporate company. Theoretically, like almost a perfect physique, as we would describe it. He wasn't like bodybuilder. He was like physique bodybuilder, right? So not the gigantic monsters that look like mountains. And he was talking about getting ready. He did a magazine interview and they did this photo shoot. He prepped for a week and a half to make sure that he was lean enough, dehydrated enough.
Exactly. Right? Yes. Okay. All of the above.
Right. If you got to mess with your body that hard to be photo ready, no.
Yeah. I mean, you don't eat, you don't drink before the shoot. It's just like you do all these things. And yeah, and that's what we compare ourselves. And, I'm in my mid 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at Instagram and seeing, 25-year-old with 6-pack abs who's just like, weightlifting like 3-4 times a week. And, I just, you can't compare. I can't compare myself to that. I'm like, wait till you become 56 and you tell me how good your knees are. Right?
I was in the gym. So I used to be a personal trainer. I've been working out since I think I started working out when I was about 11. My dad started taking me to the Y and letting me weight train because I wanted to weight train. Right. Years old, I wanted to lift weights and be big. And I fell in love with it. I love lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the gym with my workout partner. I was like 38 years old at the time, I think. And this kid who couldn't have been more than like 20, 21 at best, right? I just finished repping like 325 on bench.
Nice.
And he's like, that's pretty good, dude. Can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah, what's up, bro? He's like, when do you think you really peaked? And I was like, I'm sorry, try that again. Well, when were you really at your strongest? I was like, yesterday? I squatted 530 yesterday. Like I'm 38 years old, dude. I'm not broken. I'm not dead.
Right.
But like I finally told him, I said, you know what? Because he was kind of being a little. I was like, you know what? How old are you? He told me. I was like, I tell you what. You married? No. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm just out of college. I'm starting to do this. I tell you what. When you've been married for a decade, have a kid or two, have a mortgage and a full-time job, I'm still going to be here lifting. And if you're still here, you can ask me that question. But until you meet those criteria, because I spend 60 hours a week at a desk, you don't even get to ask me that question.
Exactly.
Right. I took a lot of great joy in the fact that I could crush most 20-year-olds in the gym.
That's awesome.
It was like, wow, what do you think? Like I remember being young enough to think that like oh my God, at 35 you die, right? That's
right. That's an old man, right?
Right? See a 40-year-old in the gym, you're like, oh my God, dude, is like a grandpa.
Right.
Yeah, no, those guys always crack me up. People, it's that misunderstanding. Your brain's not developed enough. You don't understand. You don't have that perspective on life.
Exactly. You have a limited experience at that point.
I was like, you may have a 6-pack abs, but I could snap you in half.
Right. I'm always like, I did swimming for like 5 years, like in a master's program.
Oh my God, those are good athletes right there.
And those guys, they would have beer bellies, like huge bellies, but they would smoke me like so easily. I mean, I wasn't the greatest swimmer, but I mean, like, I was proud of myself that I was able to just be in the pool with them, right, and keep up with them. We were doing 4 to 5 miles a week.
Oh yeah,
which is exhausting. But they would sprint past me, and then you get the teenagers coming in, for early morning swims, and they're smoking us all. But I'm just like, you come back to me in your mid 50s and see if you can still keep up.
I had a lot of respect. My dad, when I was 11 or 12, he'd go to the gym. He'd take me to the Y to the gym to lift, because I would go in the mornings and go swim with him, because he'd go last.
Oh, wow.
Things. And then I'd go want to lift weights. And he's like, you got to go to school. So we'll come back later. Right. But like all of us, my siblings were all on swim team. We were all swimmers and divers.
Nice.
And like the health benefits, people do not understand the strength and cardiovascular benefits of being a swimmer.
Oh my gosh. It was absolutely amazing. You know, the hard part was being in the pool at 5:30 in the morning. That's the hardest part.
Are you still swimming?
No, I'm not. I've transitioned. I was starting to get shoulder pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I do, I try to do, my son has a rowing machine, so it's still here in the house. So I use that 3 days a week. I try to do yoga because I'm seeing my parents get older, mm-hmm. and the balance is really going. So I'm a little scared of that. And I'm doing yoga. So I'm doing like, you know,
I'm a big yoga fan. I've had enough injuries. I'm a huge fan of yoga.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, I did it this morning, and it's just like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't even like sit on the floor without being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, crisscross applesauce, couldn't do that, you know, but I really, you know, especially in the last year or so, after I transitioned from swimming, you know, I've been doing more, you know, cardio, weights, and yoga, and just trying to mix it up as much as possible. But it's stuff that I can do now that I don't have kids in the house, right? When I was when I was in the middle of it, it was so hard to get out, especially, you know, when they were under 5, it was basically impossible.
Keeping moving is a power secret, man. My mom lives with us. My dad passed a couple of years ago.
I'm sorry.
Lives with us, and so she uses one of my exercise bands to help. Like a couple times a day, she'll break out the exercise band and squat with it and work her hips and work her knees and just keep functioning. She just had an emergency surgery. Well, let me phrase that. It wasn't an emergency surgery. It was the culmination of a year and a half of test, because she had a problem with the nerves around her heart firing off wrong.
Ooh.
But she went in for surgery, right? And they were actually slightly frustrated when they started interviewing her, because they had never had someone over the age of 4 or 5 who were on less medications and had less previous treatment than she had. Right?
Did they think she was hiding something?
Right. My mom's 73 years old. She takes some natural supplements like collagen and stuff like that. Right. That you take because your body doesn't have enough as you get older. It depletes to help with her knees. And, you know, she doesn't want her hair fall out because, you know, she's a lady. So she doesn't want her hair falling out.
Yep.
She takes her collagen and she takes some other stuff like that, but it's all supplemental. There's no medications. And they're like, wait, you've never had surgery. You're not on medications. You're not, how are we even seeing you? And I don't know. My heart just doesn't work right. So I don't have any problems anymore.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Like, you know, they say like, I think I heard like your 50s is kind of like the time where your body's going to be like, how did you treat me? And it's going to increase your medications after 50.
Yeah, I've had a lot of threats for mine.
Right. So it's like 50 is kind of like, you know, we looked at all the past things that you did and we've decided that you need these medications is kind of what your body's doing to you. So for your mom not to be on medications is absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She was in a car wreck last year. Yeah, I'm thrilled. My Jeep. Hey, shout out to Jeep. off the highway and landed in a canal.
Wow.
In my Jeep, my mom walked away with bruises.
Wow.
Right.
That's huge.
Shout out to Jeep.
Yep.
Huge fan.
Safety.
My mom is fine, but it was the first time in my life she's ever been in any kind of real accident. So I'm coaching her on what to expect in the coming days.
Mm-hmm.
She's never had to recover from injury before like that. Arm growth, but nothing but nicks, scrapes, cuts, little things like that over the years, some twisted ankles.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens if you keep moving and keep active. But let me segue us back in because that rode a long way. I got a question for you.
Sure.
What is your advice to dads out there? Because one of your biggest frustrations was finding out that your daughter was neurodivergent and not knowing, having all these years where you did not know, right? And there isn't a perfect playbook for dads. It's really frustrating, and there is such a large spectrum to what neurodivergent identity can be and can show up. So what is some advice you got for dads who, think their kids might be slightly different, wired differently, as far as testing, as far as patience? What's some advice you would share with dads looking in hindsight that maybe you wish you had known or thought of?
So I really wish I would have done, because at the time I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing meditation. I wasn't doing journaling. I wasn't doing anything to make sure that I approach things in a calm state. I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And I think it's just so hard as a dad because you're just always on the go. You're working crazy hours. You come home, there's bedtime routines, there's dinner, there's, 20,000 things, you can look at your phone and work's blowing up and stuff like that. And there's just not, and you wake up and you're just shot out of a cannon, right? You have no time for yourself. And so what I really wish I would have done is I really wish I would have been more guarded with my time and maybe done meditation or done journaling or something like that to give me space in my day and to do something for me, even if it was like 5 or 10 minutes, breath work, whatever it is, because the way I was showing up back then was not good. It was not healthy. It wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for them. It's like, they talk about airplanes, put on your own mask before you help the other person. And I wasn't putting on my own mask. And so I think that, and even as my kids get older, I think that calmness really helps because it makes them feel safe. And I wasn't making my daughter feel psychologically safe. I was creating an environment where she didn't feel safe. And that, again, it pains me, but it's because I wasn't working on myself. I wasn't even 5, 10, 15 minutes, just to do breath work or meditate or journal or something so that I could create that space. Because I feel like when we're calm, when it's like water, right? So just like swimming, right? It's easy to go into a pool if it's calm and swim. But if it's a really, if you go into the ocean, it's much rougher. It's hard to swim in that choppy water. But we're the ones setting the water. We're the ones deciding whether that's calm or choppy. And I think that's what I wish I could have gone back to do. So my advice to dads would be to try to do whatever you can. And it's different for everyone. Some people hate journaling. Some people hate meditation. Some people hate yoga. Some people, hate running, whatever it is, find your thing, figure out what it is that calms you down and makes you be that safe space for your kids.
Nope, I get it. I hate journaling. I'm Much rather go throw heavy weight around. That's my piece. I get out and throw around some heavy weights, and the rest of the world feels right after that.
Yep. And I think we just make better decisions when we're not in that monkey mind.
Yeah.
You know, we can be when we're at our calm states. That's why good ideas come to you in the shower. They don't come to, you know, like brainstorming sessions at work were always so bad because it was just like all this pressure to, like, you know, brainstorm. And you could do it to a certain extent, but what's that?
Everybody in the showers, let's go.
That might be a little awkward for a work environment, but yes, that's the idea, is like, you know, you got to have that calmness in your life, and you have to find out where that is.
Ever wonder what really happens behind the mic? When the lights go off and the polished show ends, well, that's when the real story begins. Join us on Patreon and get access to our exclusive Patreon-only podcast, Behind Closed Mics, fallible and unfiltered. The messy, honest truth of growing as a man, husband, father, and content creator. No scripts, no polish, just the highs, lows, and chaos of running multiple podcasts. I'm up to 4, coaching, building a brand, working freelance as a podcast producer and digital marketer, and showing up as a husband and dad all at the same time. Plus, you get insider content from all 3 of my public shows, unique community opportunities, and direct interaction with me, available at every level. If you love what we do, and you're the kind of person who wants to know how the sausage is made, that's your cup of tea, well, guys, and you want to see in the back room, join us at patreon.com/thefallibleman today.
Now, for all the dads listening, let me offer you this one gentle piece in this. For any of you over 35, you probably were not taught about the concept of psychological and emotional safety, right? All of us over a certain age, that wasn't something we talked about growing up. That wasn't something our parents were taught when we were growing up. That's not something we were brought up thinking about. It's not, I don't want to call it a new thing, but it's a new perspective on it, where we're actually starting to honestly discuss that this is and always has been a thing. And now we need to pay attention to it because we've seen what happens when we don't. So if this is a new idea to you, right? You're like, my kid's safe. There's more than physical safety. That is an adjustment for some of us. Now, this is not a free pass. You get an excuse. You don't have to be better, right? You have to do what you can do to be better, to grow as a dad. I understand it may not be something you were brought up thinking about. It may be a really new concept for you, but it does not mean that you can't learn to be better. And especially if you have younger kids right now, like, this is something that Gen Z and Gen Alpha talk about all the time. So if you have kids in that age group, if you're under the age of 35 and you're a little more familiar with this later side of the millennial group, where this was actually a conversation, for those of you in the older millennial group and above, past there, I know it wasn't a conversation. It is now, and it's something you still have time to work on, but it is a legitimate thing. Don't blow it off because it's a new idea. That is the knee-jerk reaction. That is what our parents did. Okay? My parents were boomers. Mm-hmm. That is what our parents did, because it was like, we know how to raise kids, right? And I had the benefit of being with my dad the last few years of his life. And we had some great conversations over coffee at my back porch. It's like, yeah, we had no clue. We just made it up as we went. Right? He could very confidently say that. I was like, yeah, no, we did our best. That's what we knew, you know. I'm not mad because my dad didn't teach me about finances. My dad sucked at finances, right? You can't teach what you don't know. But once you know it's a thing, you can do something about it, right? If you had taken a little time to reframe, you feel like it would have made a huge difference raising your kids, yeah?
Absolutely. 100%.
So if this is a new
100%.
conversation, guys, this is for you. Listen up. Like, you don't have to become all touchy-feely, woo-woo, okay? If you're like me and that scares the crap out of you and you're like, no, it's cool. You don't have to be all touchy-feely, woo-woo. But you can learn that you can be safe and be the safe space. That's your job for your kids, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too.
And
because I know from a certain age group, they're just going, no.
No, it makes sense because, Gen X, we were not taught about this. This was not, there was no safety. I mean, I was always looking at sitcoms and I'm like, they're emotionally available and they're making them feel safe to express their emotions. And I'm like, where's that in my life? I couldn't figure out, all these sitcoms, they would make jokes and stuff like that, but they were always emotionally available and people felt safe to express their emotions. And
Family Ties was, mass psychology for all of us. That's all it was.
Right.
Mass therapy for the masses. That's all.
Exactly. I was peak Eaton all the way. But yeah, it's just, but I also think that this concept of psychological safety doesn't only apply to being a dad. It also applies in a lot of areas in your life. Because the way I first learned about psychological safety was I read a business book called Creativity, which is a story of Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy from Pixar was having all this success, and he went over to Disney, and he was like, why don't these people have success? Because Disney was at a point where they just could not get they owned the animated space, and Pixar was eating their lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And so he actually went over to Disney, saw what the problem was. It was because it was fear-based. Nobody felt safe. At Pixar, everybody felt safe to give an idea, no matter what level they were. And so when I read that about psychological safety, it not only talked to me as a dad, but it also talked to me as, an employee, as a leader, or as a manager at work. Because if I don't make my employees feel psychologically safe, they're not going to tell me what's going on. And they're going to hide stuff from me. And if I'm a leader at that company, I need to know that stuff. So I think it goes into a lot of areas, because if I've had bosses that don't make me feel psychologically safe, and I've had bosses that do make me feel safe. Guess which ones I perform better for? I mean, it's obvious. And there's one boss, and I'm still friends with him, and it felt like therapy going into his office. I was like, I'm sorry, Kevin, do I owe you for the therapy session? But I felt so safe and comfortable talking to him about everything that I was seeing in the business. And I think that's, it's part of being a leader. And you can be a leader at home, you can be a leader at work. But the traits that I admire most in leaders are calmness and confidence. And that talks about the safety. So I just want to throw out that it's not just for home. It permeates everywhere in life.
I got some interesting feedback. I did an episode on one of my other shows about how to make it where your teenagers want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I spent, like I said, 20 years working with teens in various capacities. And the entire episode was about what you can do personally to yourself to be the person that they want to talk to. Right? It was nothing about what your teen needs to do or how to talk to your teens. It was what you need to do that they want to talk to you.
And how you're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other distinctions that I've had in the last couple of years that's really been a turning point, because as my kids get older, right, they're more adults and less kids. I don't have to tell them not to touch the hot stove anymore.
Some of us still need that help.
So sometimes, but but for the most part, I don't have to tell them a lot of things, and they don't want to take my advice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about it, I think advice is hard to take but especially for that age group, because, now they're super confident. And so what I've started to do is I'm trying to get to the point where I'm not giving them advice, but I'm asking them open-ended questions. Like what or how, not yes or no questions, but what or how questions. Because if they say, I'm having a hard time in school, I would just paraphrase it back to them and say, oh, you're having a hard time in school. How is that showing up for you? Or what can you do about that? Or what do you think your options are? Things like that make them think of solutions. Because if they come up with the solutions, then they have the buy-in. So that's something that I'm really working on with my kids, is to try not to give them advice, because they've heard my old man stories already. And they get it. But if I give them reflection questions, then they have to actually think about it.
If you've ever worked with a therapist or a psychiatrist, all that stuff that pisses you off.
Yep. That they ask.
Right.
How do you feel? Right, exactly.
Stop answering your question with a question. But this is about you. So really, yeah, it's
yeah. So it's been it's interesting to transition to that.
My 13-year-old doesn't always appreciate that, because I have a habit of doing that a lot more than just the yes or no answers. Questions. So thinking about this, like, well, what do you think about that? Let's dig into that some. She's like,
right.
But I asked you. I was like, yeah, but that's anything. Let's dive into that a little more.
Exactly. But it forces them to think and come up with an answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's helpful.
Nate. Ow. Why did I just call you Nate? Apparently I'm dyslexic today, because I just read your name backwards and swapped out the E, and sorry guys. It's been I've not been sleeping well lately. I apologize now, Evan. Sorry about that.
It's okay, man.
My brain saw your name backwards out of the corner of my eye on my notes, and somehow I totally just wow, I'm doing well.
No worries.
Evan, what is your favorite part about being a dad?
My favorite part is just I don't know where it's going to go. That's what I love about it. It's the uncertainty about it. It's like I don't know what's going to come next, and the the avenues my son took, like marine science or Rubik's Cube or badminton or stuff like that, or Taekwondo. I never imagined that. And it's just, that's what I really enjoy, is supporting them on their journeys and making sure that they feel that support. Badminton may not be my thing, but I can support them in doing that, right? Or if my son's into rowing, so I'm going to regattas, right? You support whatever their interest is. And I just think you could never predict what their interests are going to be. And that's my favorite part, is just not knowing where they're going to go to next.
Now, it wouldn't be a dad show without a dad joke. Do you have a dad joke for us?
Oh, I have so many dad jokes. In fact, my kids, I'm always doing puns and stuff like that. But my favorite dad joke, and the one that I'm banned from saying in the house now.
Ooh, it's got to be good then.
It's got to be good. So this was when I was, in corporate, and a guy walks into work, and he sits down in his cubicle right beside me, and he's like, "Man, I forgot my lunch today. I left it on the counter." And I said, "You need a counter strategy." That's my favorite down joke. But you would not believe how many times the word counter comes up in regular conversations. So there's always, so I'm not allowed to say counter strategy in my household. And so I think that's my favorite dad joke. And that's, probably will be on my headstone.
Fair enough. Evan, I've been looking at the sign behind you the entire conversation. I realized we didn't ever actually really introduce you. What is New Grad Launchpad?
So I've developed this course that actually helps parents. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier, actually, that actually help parents know how to show up in a meaningful way for their adult children. And so, so it's, several videos long, and it teaches you all the things. It talks a lot about stuff we talked about in here, but it's more in depth. And so it encompasses, and change, because the way you show up as a parent is really apparent. There you go. Is really apparent. And if you're not controlling that, or if you don't have the resources, or if there's things that are going in the background of you that you don't know how to show up for, this is what that course helps. And I offer one-on-one coaching as well. So there's a variety of different programs, from, a very low ticket offer to a high ticket offer. And that's what I want to do, because I want the adult children to feel empowered to find their own path. And the path that we came up with, especially when it comes to careers and jobs, is not the path that is there for them today. It's not like you go to school and you go to college and you get a good paying job and you don't have to worry about it. So that's what I'm really excited about, is like working with parents to making sure that they're showing up for their kids in the best way. And for those people who have kids in college, or people who have kids in their 20s, especially for those kids, the parents that I talk to mostly have kids in their 20s who are just floundering. And the parents are struggling too, because they don't know how to support their kid.
Guys, we'll have all, and I mean all of them. I have a list. I won't screw it up like I did his name. I'll have all Evan's contacts down in the show notes, or podcast description, YouTube description, whatever platform you're on with us today. We'll see if I can actually end this the right way. Evan, as we're landing this plane today, if the dad's listening, heard nothing else, what do you want to leave them with? What's the most important thing you want them to hear?
I want them to know that how they show up is so important, and that calmness is so important. And to also be less judgmental with yourself, give yourself grace, and less judgment of others.
Guys, thanks for joining us today on the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, a community of dads just navigating life's challenges together. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.